good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Welcome to Psych Club. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here, and I have Rachel from Right Side Blonde, and I have Mr. 107, who is demonstrating the beauty of Havasu Lake and London Bridge. London Bridge is falling down, or maybe not. It looks like he's in pretty good nick right there.
Well, of course, London Bridge is falling down is the code phrase for the Queen has passed. And so when they do these tests, preparing for a state funeral and then the passing of power to a new monarch, in this case, Queen Elizabeth, the code phrase that's been out for, since 2012 publicly, is London Bridge has fallen. And so probably by this point in time, that has changed and has some kind of an internal thing because it was leaked, but it's out there in the public. That would be the phrase that would be sent out. In fact, there was a test done about 3 months ago, and that phrase was leaked out into the media as having been communicated. And so there was all sorts of speculation at that time that the Queen had passed, which was not the case. But anyway, that's kind of a fun backstory, just what goes on.
That's interesting. I've noticed Lake Havasu, which is where you're at. Havasu is H-A-V-A-S-U, if I've spelled that correctly. I believe I have, yeah. And Lake is 29, which is on, which is A-U-G, which is Diana, which is calm. But that comes to Lake Havasu, 72, Monday, Money, River comes to 101. But if you do London Bridge, 119, Nikola Tesla, Redemption, Mary Magdalene, Central Park, Foundation. Yeah, Lake Havasu, London Bridge, that comes to 220, Operation Warp Speed. So that's interesting. Oh, I like that. This number boy might be getting somewhere. So yeah, interesting. That is a nice green color one. It reminds me a little of Venice, actually.
Of course, you get a lot of silt here in the lake, and of course, after having just had the dust storm, that greenness comes out because of the silt in the water and kind of the sand being churned up. And then in here, Martini Bay is what this is called in here. And so
is it really?
It's more stirred up in here. Yeah. As you get out deeper in the lake, it turns to a beautiful blue. And so you get out of the harbor here, you go out jet skiing, and I love to jet ski. There's some great stretches in out here. You can get up 95 miles an hour if you got a ski that's capable of it. Anything past about 60 or so, you're going fast, and you get up there 75 or so on jet ski. I mean, I've had the boats out there 140, 50 miles an hour, and that's stunning kind of speeds on the water. It's way different feel than it is on hard ground. It feels like going 300 when you're going 150 on the water, but the jet skis even more so, just because of your position on the ski and like that, even than the boats. So you're facing the wind and everything else. The boats, you have more protection from the wind with a windscreen or something like that. Generally, when you're on a jet ski, if you're going 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, man, you're going that fast. So
yeah.
I'm more of a pontoon person. I like the slow. I said I'm more of a pontoon person.
Yeah, the pontoon boats. Well, they have some here, but not the big houseboats. So you go up the lake, up to Colorado, further and up onto Lake Powell, And then they have the houseboats, and the houseboats are fantastic. And you can go about 75, 85 miles up on Lake Powell, and all the way up to Bull City, not to be confused with Bullhead City. And Bullhead's down here on the lower portion, and then the upper portion is Bull City, and that is, you know, up into Utah and like that. It's just phenomenally spectacular. I mean, it's very cool, but the water's always changing in depth and height, you know, how high the lake is. And when the lake gets low, they have all sorts of obstructions that show up out of nowhere. And so if you hit them and you got a prop, you'll ding your prop and screw it up and knock the prop off your houseboat. I prefer jets in that kind of situation. You might scrape the hull a little bit about, you're not going to disable the motor. So it's the way it is. Lots of fun.
The time you gave, sorry, not the time, Juan, the speed you gave. So yesterday, I'm going to give a shout out to everyone in England that came to the Patriot event in Birmingham. So I spoke with Charlie Ward back in January, and I said, hey, we should do a Patriot event here in the UK. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And then he said he'll get Tara to organise it, which she did. And then he said, let's do a tour. And tour is 74, which is English, which is gematria, which is Jesus, Messiah, Muhammad, all of them. But then, so they were going to do one over Easter, a tour, but then that actually took place yesterday. So it was a brilliant event that Charlie and his team put together. And I wore my 88 miles per hour t-shirt. So it's funny when you did 95 miles per hour as the first speed on the water, because that is fast. I can imagine how fast that is on water. But 95 is the Queen. It's Tuesday. MPH, the abbreviation is 37, but 95 MPH comes to 132, comes to Princess Diana, also comes to JFK Jr. is alive. And again, I mentioned Lake 29 is Diana. But it was an amazing event one. It was, so obviously, you know, we had the one in October in Vegas, which was great. And this one, it was rammed. It was full to the rafters, and you saw the joy on the face of all the English patriots. There were some actual people. There was a lovely lady from Idaho. I was on the dinner table with her in the evening, and she told me she flew from Idaho. She stopped at St. Paul's in Minneapolis, then to Paris, and then came into England all the way from Idaho for the event. And there were people from Sweden. Yeah, she came from there. And there were people that came from Sweden and Finland. And
a lot of folks from Europe live in Idaho. It's a very similar environment. A lot of people from Ireland and Scotland, a lot of Scandinavian people, because it's very similar in temperature and temperament, even farming communities and like that. So Southern Idaho, I should specify too. So that's not at all uncommon. You know, out across there. So
yeah, and
looks like you're gonna do another one soon. Go on, right? Sorry.
I was just gonna say that Idaho is not Iowa for people. People get those confused often.
Vastly different.
Yeah. It's one of those ice states though, in the middle. Well, Idaho's further west, isn't it? But it was a great event. It was really good, and they're going to do more. So the UK Patriot tours have been born. And I think the best is yet to come, because it was an incredible event. Yeah.
Well, all around the world, I mean, there's a fight going on over who's going to be in charge, and certainly in the English-speaking world, we've been having conflict over people wanting to control us, even from within our own tribes, for a very, very, very long time. And so, you know, it's in the nature of English speaking people to want to govern themselves and not to be managed. And there is a certain club, cult, elite that think that they have the right to be our managers. And whether it's a or an education or something else, this class that thinks that they have the right and the duty to, this credentialed, sophisticated crowd that thinks that they need to manage the rest of us, and people all around the world are pushing back on it. The current, they create a panic, and then want to shut things down, twist things different direction. It didn't just start in this last couple of years. I could name 10 incidents in the last 30 years that have been done to provide an excuse for greater and greater societal control. And then, under even the conversations to push us apart, to keep us from communicating with each other, that's being foisted on us by an elite class, a political class, a corporate class that want to police our ability to interact, because as we do interact and come together, we're a threat, because that means that we can't be so easily managed or controlled. Information can't be controlled in such a way to get the desired outcomes that this class wants. And so the fight's on. Here in the U.S., we had the premieres of, I was there at the premiere in Vegas day before yesterday, and it was excellent. So the work that's been done is outstanding. And this, combined with the work that we've been doing steadily for the last year and a half, is really starting to gain traction. It's impossible at this point in time to say that there was not a and have any credibility. The question is what's going to happen next, because the data is becoming so impossible to argue with at this point. You'll have a class of people that are fully vested in a position. They've gone out on a limb and said nothing happened, it wasn't, etc. They're the ones that are losing all credibility. And the real question that will be the question across the next many months and summer is, what are you going to do about it, from both sides? One saying that there's nothing to do about it, just get over it, and the other saying, I'm not moving forward. In my book, in the first edition, on every single page of the first edition, I put a cube, and the cube refers to page 71 in my book, where I put the equation. Will equal mega to the third power over corn. The third power is cubed. I said it's all about, people can go out and do, gatherings as much as they want, and they can think it's all about 2024 and who are the candidates in 2024. What's evolving right now is what I told your audience and other audiences back before the, and I used that symbology, the cube, the orange cube, mega to the third power over corn. Who's the corn? The corn is these, specifically, as I describe in the book, the intelligence agents and officers that are trained at the farm, more than one farm, multiple farms around the world, and here in the U.S., to do infiltration, undercover, investigations, etc. So these intelligence officers, when they go get trained at the farm, when they're done and they're fresh off the farm, we call them corn. And as they mature and get better at it, we call them popcorn. Okay. So we have these corn products. The biggest agricultural product that America produces is corn. So, in other countries, it's wheat, things like that. so grains, but here it's corn. So equal omega over corn. Well, why would I say corn related to an election? Because the people involved, let's be honest, if they various ways put out $480 million into and various groups to get in this that, by the way, was a vote. A lot of people are only concerned about, well, excuse me, it was only part of it. We're involved also. We have to go to, but then you have to have security, adequate security in the way that the ballots are printed, issued, and received and counted. And none of that was there with those. That's what shows. Oh, here we go there. The firemen are after me. They've got their nets out. Uh-oh. They heard me talking about they you know, that you gotta be crazy to think that you gotta be crazy. Okay. I don't know if you heard the alarm back there. This is fire siren. But the reality
we heard
is
the alarm, 45. We heard the alarm.
Yeah, okay. So now what's happening, you're going to watch over the next many months a transition. And that transition is going to be, okay, we know that we admit it, but was it great enough? Yes, it was more than great enough. But they're going to argue, was it great enough? And then the law, there's nobody enforcing it. There's no legal way to go back and turn the dial back. Well, actually there is, but it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be fun. And so when I printed it in my book, will equal MEGA, the Make America Great Again coalition, in a loose sense of the term, those people that want to fight back and have America be great, and other countries. Okay. And I'll get to that in a second. But this fight back, why? Because if as smoothly and easily and readily as this was, then they put the people that they want in. Who's they? Who? This elite class of business people, politicians, military, corporatists, globalists, conniving and working together, colluding in order to, and then those leaders doing their bidding. Look, when they put that money in for the, they were used with tax-free foundations all across the United States because of the manner in which they were collected and then processed through to get to the, none of that was legal in any of the states. While it is legal in some states, it's only for relatives. It can't be done wholesale. And that's what the video shows, the investigation shows. So with that in mind, the fight back for America, most people want to say, well, it's about the future. We're not going to let it in 2022 and 2024. My contention is that's a wrong way to look at it. Dinesh D'Souza, in the questioning after the film release there in Vegas, said that Republican Party was asleep. Republicans were asleep. It's probably the only real thing he said that I strongly disagree with. What we've learned is that the Republican Party wasn't asleep. The Republican Party is a captured operation. The Republican Party, in a kind of a generic sense, is a captured operation colluding with the globalists, the seditionists, all over the world. Because even inside the Republican Party meetings in multiple states now, California, Colorado, Georgia, Arizona, we've seen incidents where the Republican Party endorses candidates, helps choose candidates, where the voting was still inside the Republican Party. That there's all sorts of anomalies. Preservation letters have been sent out, and legal action is coming in California and these other states to find out who's been, because again, how are you getting all these rhinos into office as Republicans? Well, they get them past the primary, and then you only got your one choice, a rhino or and so you hold your nose and trying to hold off, and all you're doing is Judge Bork said in his book, slipping towards Gomorrah. You're sliding down the slippery slope. And so now that we know that there's going on, even in the way the candidates are picked and the way that the candidates get past the primaries, we've got to go back further than just, we have to go back before the primary process and the parties, especially the Republican Party, and get a handle on who's doing what there and getting their candidates as the anointed ones that then go out and do the globalist bidding. America's fighting back. It's going to be a long process, but what was President Trump's last communication as president of the United States? I've said it to your audience before, but it's worth repeating. Of all the things that he could have told America, he didn't in the last hours even. He didn't agree that Hillary, and so he didn't, roll over, if you will. He left while he was still president, left the White House, and returned to Florida. And I'll just repeat it, even though I've said it, most of your audience knows that. I want to remind you of this because it's very important in the shadow of the release and the conversations that are being had and are going to be had the rest of the summer. How do we move on? We can't move on. You cannot ignore the outcome of. You look at and the attempt to get us into war there. It's because you have leadership that was put in place that was involved in all sorts of criminality they want to cover up in that region of the world. You're looking at the potential that affects the whole world based on who took power after an allegedly safe, free, secure, which wasn't true. If Trump was in office, a lot of that would not ever have got started or happened. And even during the Trump administration, they were battling him with all sorts of falsehoods about et cetera, which wasn't true. So when President Trump was in office, he used a secret way of communicating. It's called the language of semaphores, the language of flags. Everybody in Britain should know it, because the sun never set in the British Empire because its navy ruled the seas, and the communication was via flags. So you can think of just a pirate flag or a national flag being up as being one sign of who's in control. But beyond that, the communication, what you're saying ship to ship, when you didn't have radios, you didn't have the ability to, you don't want to send smoke signals, you sent flags. And the order of the flags, the colors of the flags, the markings on the flags, that was all relevant. And then new message, you run a black flag, then start a new message. President Trump communicated with the language of semaphore. And where are you going to fly the flags at? So everybody gets a chance to see them. Everybody knows to watch. Melania was wearing the color of the day, the flag of the day, or multiple flags during the course of the day. So the first communication that President Trump sent out covertly to the world was the dress that Melania wore the day he was inaugurated. And that dress was blue. And they bore a box that they carried and presented to President Obama at the White House steps. And that was also Tiffany blue. And we laugh about it, but let me just say this also, and I'm going to be very decisively firm on this. Have allowed people to take office as though they were legitimate, foisting out ideas, principles, mannerisms, presentations that suited the objectives, the mentality, the disruptive purposes of this global elite. So even the idea that it is presented as okay, if people actually knew that, they would not have voted that. It was to put that in position, in play. And then on top of that, the principles, the values, the ideals that were foisted on the American people in various ways also. It wasn't just this most recent, it just reached the most egregious level. The attempt at 2016 was there. They just didn't big enough. They never saw Trump winning as handily as he did. And they couldn't change the results after the fact. That's why they had to stop the counting, turn off the computers, send everybody home in the middle of the night. So President Trump communicated using the language of semaphore. The dress that Melania wore was Tiffany blue, a very specific shade of blue that was invented by Jacqueline Kennedy. It was a color that she invented for the design on the markings on Air Force One. And so she was tasked with coming up with a new color scheme that was emblematic of the American system that, had a certain style and grace. And so those colors on Air Force One, the lower color blue is Tiffany blue, and it came from Jackie Kennedy. When President Trump had Melania wearing that, it indicated we're coming to take back what was from us, what was deprived of America, its future, with the assassination of President Kennedy. Over the course of the administration, there was lots of signals whenever Melania was out in public with the dresses, styles, etc., hidden communication. With that in mind, the last dress would be as important or even more important to everyone in the world, everyone, based on this communication of a president having to leave office in a situation that he knows, he said specifically, he articulated it over and over and over, which shows decisively, along with all the other work we've been doing all along, which the courts have not allowed us to get to any type of actual action to resolve, to adjudicate, etc. thus far, but it's coming. And we're getting closer by the hour on several cases. When they left the White House, what color dress was Melania wearing? What was the communication?
Have you got edition 2? Can you show it to everyone? Juan?
I don't have the picture of Melania leaving the White House, but she was wearing a black dress.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah.
Okay, end of communication, start new message. When she got off Air Force One in Miami, President Trump was still president for just a few more minutes as they left to go to Mar-a-Lago. And so the flag that was run up the flagstaff, the last message from the Admiral of the Fleet for the ship of state America, as it sailed into this dark of night. And anybody that thinks we haven't gone into some kind of a darkness and abyss, not just here in America, but across the world, you're on the threshold of what foreign minister has said is something like the Cuban Missile Crisis. You're at the edge of we have all sorts of threats against us from around the world, including the medical stuff, financial stuff that, you know, and by the way, let me just add one thing. Across Central and South America, up to Cuba, there are dramas taking place right now that most people have no knowledge, idea of. The cartels are at war, virtually unknown by anybody here in the West. The current day equivalent to Pablo Escobar was extradited out of Colombia a few days ago. He's been in prison for a period of time, but Colombia made the decision to go ahead and do the extradition, and he was sent to the United States. This is important because the drug war has shifted from Colombia to Mexico and Venezuela. And Venezuela is headed to be the next narco capital, taking on a role like Colombia has had for decades. Mexico and the cartels there want it and want to be the more powerful of the two. The explosion that happened in Cuba at the hotel a couple of days back took out a number of the operatives from one of the cartels. Members of the other cartel, including high officials from the Mexican government, are in Havana right now trying to negotiate who gets to be in charge and who's controlling those negotiations. Where's the largest Cuban embassy in the world? Mexico City. Where was the largest Russian embassy for many, many, many decades? Mexico City, outside of, across the world. The 70s and 80s Cold War with Russia and the work going on in South America by Russia and the Cubans is all starting back up again. There's a very serious situation going on right now in another country. I don't want to name because I don't want to tip off what's happening, but there's something going on very, very, very sensitive that threatens to bring back everything that was going on in the 80s with Central and South America in ways that Americans are just not ready for at this point in time, being right on our shoulders. You know, forget about all of a sudden you're going to have to worry about Central and South America, right up to Mexico, right on your border. It is huge, way bigger than most people have even begun to think. I'll be talking about that probably over the next week or two, but I won't today just because some of the information is just too sensitive this second. But we cannot be naive. Actions have consequences. Have consequences. And this one's not going to be allowed to stand. So as President Trump got off the plane with Melania at Palm Beach, January 20th, 2021, and power was handed over to Biden because Congress certified an election without actually knowing the proper results, Melania wore a dress, and the dress had a code. And the code was exactly the code I had on every page of my book that went to print in July of 2020 and was released to the public in October of 2020. And on that, every page of the book has an orange cube. Cube will equal MAGA, the Make America Great Again crowd. cubed over corn with an orange cube. President Trump sent that message out to the world in the language of semaphore, ran it up the flagpole, and there was Melania. Dark to light. And you'll notice even where the blue is here in the dress, those are actually cubes. You're just looking at them on the side. You're seeing cubes in different directions. The entire dress is nothing but cubes, dark to light. The last message from President Trump was that still has to be addressed and overturned, and the consequences unwound, unraveled, because we cannot allow this to stand. It's not about 2022. It's not about trying again at 2024. It's all about 2020. And that's what President Trump has been saying all the way along. That's what it tells you. And now with actions that are happening, even in the latest executive orders, turning over management of our health system to who? In the matter of about a week and a half. Are you kidding me? You can't let this stand, and we're not going to. The big question over the rest of the weeks and months ahead is how are we going to remove an entire club of people out of power in all the various locations they've been planted into under false pretenses, as though they didn't.
Are those
to light 125 John Kennedy time travel. 8th Avenue. Go on, Rex. Yeah.
it looks like there's G's, the letter G. Am I seeing that?
Yes.
correctly?
So it's a goosey dress. I have a couple of them, and actually I have 3, I think. And
I didn't know you liked wearing dress, Juan.
Yeah, no, I have them for the museum somewhere out in the future. We'll have those there. Have a lot of fun with them. But the Goosey is the one that manufactured that particular dress, but it's an unusual choice. Some people tried to malign it and called it a clown dress. Others tried to come up with other terms, as though Melania didn't have great taste in wearing that dress going back to the White House. I mean, to Palm Beach from the White House. The reality is it was even more so because it was about the message. It suited what they were working to do in presenting a very specific, precise message. And of all the messages to convey, it's right there in my book. This copy, this is the 2nd edition. It came out in March of 2021. So the 1st edition, you don't see the foil on it. It has a picture of President Trump on the rear, and those are virtually all gone. The 2nd edition, I still have some available, and if people want to go, get it, you can get it over at. It's pretty loud here. You can hear. See, that's it. They're after us. They don't want us to talk about this.
I'm already knowing that we're going to have to spend a lot of time, just because doesn't like a lot of the, but that's okay. So
well, and you can shoot a copy over to us at 107 Daily. Who's controlling the conversation? To what purpose? They don't want to see you, if you even talk about. Or remember, couldn't be released there. They wouldn't let it be out there. Why? Because they can't allow you to have an honest conversation. They can't survive an honest conversation we're going to have this conversation whether they like it or not. And by the way, the book, you can get it at 107daily.com. You can also get it over at gumroad.com. And in fact, we're going to have over at Gumroad a special package available to get rid of the last of the books that are over there. That'll be posted probably by the time you get the show up. And Kid by the Side of the Road at gumroad.com. And then a different package over at 107 Daily. The other thing that just for people, I want to throw out there for your audience that's very important. All of the stuff with, and I pronounce it a couple different ways. The way that he pronounced it is the correct way. You kind of, if you hyphenate it, it'd be Mac, M-A-C, and then U-F, and then Fee, F-E-E. So I say it, it's, you know, it's just something that I've said probably since the 80s, but it's not the correct way to say it. And so out of respect, but plausible denial. Here you got a guy that supposedly died, and there's all sorts of intrigue. So one of the things about the intrigue is we have other people that have gone and hid out in Spain just recently from South America, because you have a very strong alliance there culturally between Central and South America and Spain. And so we were just having the conversation yesterday on one of the people that's been held there, secreted there while they're working through the negotiations, which country's going to get him, or if nobody's going to take him, he's going to get to just lounge out there in Spain and cooperate with all of the intelligence agencies that want him to give him information that he knows. You got a couple of different mob families that run the government, and others that control certain areas that the government themselves aren't able to control. And so it's been a great hideout. And one of the things that was the comment we were talking about yesterday, well, what's the current price to get broke free out of a Spanish prison? So, and it was actually a very specific number. Well, it depends. It's this or this or this. Depends on who you're talking about. If you want the price, it's such and so. We were having kind of a big laugh, but it wasn't actually tongue in cheek. It was a very serious conversation. So why do I raise? Because we're closing now on the numbers that were set operation. Was what was put in play after his death a year ago, with the idea that he had 31 terabytes of information that he had extracted out of government computers all over the world, but primarily the US. And in that information, think of and all of the emails, all of the private communications and contracts that were released, and then the angst and the hatred and the vile that came out because this information was released to the public. Think of with the corporate contracts and operations that affected people all over the world, in governments all over the world, as it was released. Now think of that information not being released through normal media channels, but being released based on a blockchain code. And when you have the proper code, it's out there in blockchains around the world, and people that get their own little piece of the code, which comes out periodically with the people that have cryptocurrency, they get key codes that allow them to unlock some piece of the puzzle. Think of a page. So if you have a coin that unlocks a certain code within the blockchain, you can release a piece of data, and literally tens of millions, hundreds of millions of pages. So people will be pulling their out and trying to unlock some piece of data, and who knows which piece has what piece of data, how explosive it's going to be against people in power, against people in globalist locations, pulling the strings, elite families, etc. That's what's coming. And they're at about 350,000 coins out, where they want 400,000 before they start doing these huge releases. It's a percentage of the 350 million coins that are out there, and the 400 million that they want as a threshold. When that happens and those leaks start to happen, nothing's going to be able to stop those leaks. Now, so far, people are blowing it off as though it's just a trolling operation. It's a game. It's like real raw news or whatever, which they say right on their website that it's for entertainment purposes. It's not real. Okay, so a lot of people think that this is a not real operation and that nothing's going to happen. No, Doc, he didn't have anything. He's the dead guy. He doesn't have anything, and it's just all a ruse. So it's not going to be long before we'll find out if it's a ruse or not. But a very sophisticated operation is in play to prepare for broader information release. This at the same time that the fight is on over the information from Dinesh D'Souza said that he's going to release all of the information they have on them, not just the ones that were talked about in the movie, but all the rest of which were smaller quantities of from these nonprofit centers that were essentially stash houses for. And as that is going on, we also have the legal battles in a number of courtrooms, especially in Georgia, where they're coming to a head. And you're going to be seeing unbelievable politics, political things happen in what's going to happen in the Senate primarily, and other things. All of this coming to a head at the same time, as well as the revelations of who was behind some of the that were going on around America, the groups, the money internationally, etc. And as that comes to a head during a period when the abortion law, the federal abortion laws being changed, you're coming into a summer like we had in '69 with everything in play. And it's going to be very dramatic. It's going to have repercussions that are going to change the way things evolve coming up on the 2022.
Juan, you said,
and remember, everything that's there, again, it comes right back to this right here. That's going to be a tremendous collectible. We're not printing anymore. I'm just saying it, and the first edition, because why? Because we said it very precisely and very accurately. The president reiterated it, repeated it for everybody. It's all about 2020. Even things that have been happening behind the scenes with the military. The president today sent a letter, said that he never signed the. He made it very clear. He stated it again. Why? Because it would have led to civil war in America by degrees if he'd signed it back at December 18th, when a lot of people thought he had at some point thereafter before he left office, triggering certain military things. Why? Because people see what's going on in the military behind the scenes at the highest levels, and they can't figure it out. senior executive service people are scratching their heads because they thought they had control, and they don't. There's an echelon, an upper strata of the military that has not conceded, has not turned over control. And people are now starting to wonder, well, if he didn't sign the and things aren't going this certain way, what's actually going on? You're looking at continuity in government. And it's a 1954 military code of justice that's in play here. It's an insider conversation. By the end of the summer, everybody's going to understand it very clearly. That's my expectation.
Juan, you said, going back to Melania's dress, so you made emphasis of that, and the dress is Gucci. So a Gucci dress, Gucci comes to 43, which is wife. If you do 143, that's Melania Trump. Dress is 65. But if you do a Gucci dress, it comes to 109, which is 17. Then it got me thinking about the whole thing with Back to the Future, with time travel. November 5th. November 5th comes to Melania Trump, 143. Even if you do November 5th, a Gucci dress. So if you do Melania Trump, a Gucci dress comes to 109, 17. Comes to Lady Diana. Sorry, comes to Diana Spencer, I should say. Comes to my channel, Psych Club. But even if you take it further, so if you do Melania Trump 143 plus a Gucci dress, that comes to a 252. But it also makes me think of the phrase in Back to the Future, when they talk about going back to the future on a Saturday night. And there you go. And Saturday is also a Gucci dress, 109. And 71 is Psych, and 71 is
71 is
Lady Diana.
17. It's also
it's an inverse of 17, yeah. And it's also Lady Diana is 71 and Smart.
And by the way,
71.
just so people, I rarely even talk about the book. I haven't for quite some time, or show it out. It's but the other side of the coin is it's an important message. You don't see me hawking the book or something like that. I'm taking time today because this is important that people understand. You were told all of the emphasis has to be on 2020. We cannot give up on 2020. For all the people saying that we're not going to solve this, we just got to move on, etc. If you can't get 2020 corrected and all of the aftermath of us corrected, you can't actually move on as a country. And that's why the most important place that it's going to get corrected first isn't at the presidency. It's at the Senate. Watch. You'll see what I'm talking about. Now, the other thing, let me just add this one thing here too. I said, looking out beyond the 2020 election cycle, this is page 72. Looking out beyond the election cycle, 2022 will be even more critical. The angst amongst those disposed of power will likely cause them to lash out violently. The strength of the mega must continuously mature and increase. Therefore, for that time, the equation must also change to equals mega to the fourth power over corn. It's worth noting that the Bible's number of foundation is 4. And if you watch, and I won't bore people with it right this second, but all through the communications, all through this little backside communication in the fight back, it's all 4, 44, 144. 4 is what we call breaking the 8 number. So you'll see 448, you'll see 82, which and then 44 or 4, and it's all just breaking the 8 thing. It's break the magic. But you mentioned something about the world a minute ago and some of the conversations. Let me just read this one last bit. 2024 isn't Make America Great Again. Let me just read this paragraph. Beyond that, 2024, where we'll have 2 great concerns. Here at home, there will be leaders to choose amongst that are capable of grasping and carrying the baton forward when this president steps aside. And just as important, how will we, the people, take our victories at home and share them with our brethren around the globe? In the end, that too is vital, because the equation is far more extensive at 2024 and must be expanded to encompass the people of the world, not just America. The equation at that time should be updated to MEGA, M-E-G-A, make Earth great again, as we work together to make Earth great again, which, God willing, will be an era where the children of Adam come together, retaking and enjoying our God-given inheritance and blessings. So therefore, Earth's election energy at 2024 time period must equal MEGA, make Earth great again, to the fifth power over global corn, these globalists. We have a long fight ahead, but first we have to, take care of things here at home. 2020 is, that has to be reversed, overturned. Those that were put in power unlawfully, unjustly. In the scriptures, in the Bible, you have to have just weights and measures. In the olden days, they had scales, which were a balance, and everything was weighed and measured, and links and all this other thing. So you couldn't steal or rob from somebody by having a slightly heavier or lighter balance. And so a little bit of magic to rip somebody off a few pennies at a time. And so a just weight or a just measure was critically important. Well, it goes to it's a measure of the people's attitude, the people's intent, the people's choice. And so people have been put into positions of authority and power, making decisions that control whole countries as though it was the will of the people, and it wasn't. The people didn't want Baphomets in power over our country. Didn't want to look at them every day as though that was normal and okay. The people did not want that the court would legislate from the bench and have abortion as the law of the land, blood sacrifice at a national level. It was a states' rights thing. The states can determine state by state, and the people vote at the home locally. And that was foisted on us by judges acting unlawfully, putting their finger on the. And now this court is understanding that that was an unlawful action. And by the way, I had a report earlier today that one of the justices had to be taken to a secure location because of threats on his life, which were quite real. Take out one of the justices that's a conservative, you could change the balance in the court. We had a similar incident about a month and a half ago with Justice Thomas. So there's a fight going on behind the scenes, and it's very, very, very real at this exact instant. Who's going to control who's in power and how? And if you can't do it with a hit, do it with an accident or something else. This is a very real fight. We're not backing off. We're going to go back, and is going to assist in that. All of the integrity hearings around the country, which we've had quite a few of, and we're going to have quite a few more. We've already got almost a dozen scheduled through the summer, and I'm sure that number is going to go up radically over the next weeks, months. More and more states are asking for these hearings to look at how we correct stuff moving forward, what happened in the past, where are we at on the legal cases, and what can be done to assist them. And we're powering forward. Some of these legal cases are far more advanced than you're hearing in the. Pay attention.
Well, going back to the point about Melania Trump, November 5th, 1:43, a Gucci dress, 109.17. But if you do, and it's also Saturday, the Gucci dress. So if you do Saturday night, the Back to the Future reference, November 5th, Saturday night, or Melania Trump, a Gucci dress, night is 58, which is just Sarah as well. That comes to 310. And you mentioned the Bible. That makes me think of the reference in Malachi about the windows of heaven being open to the people. And Malachi is 47, which is John. But there's also Malachi 3:10. There's a film, Yuma 3:10. It starred Christian Bale. I think there's been some other versions of it as well previous to that. I think with Yul Brynner. But you've been down to the wall a lot, and so the 310 is Yuma, and that's a place on the wall. That's a place on the wall down in Arizona.
Well, you got to remember, 310 drop the 0, it's a 31, and that's an inverse 13. That's kind of their little, that's the number of bloodline families. They like to do it in plain sight. They see it, and they see it instantly. You got to do the mental math. Well, it's like if I have to mentally hear a word in Spanish and then translate it in my mind, that means, well, let's see, gato, and I visualize a cat. And then I think, okay, cat is the English word. It's a long process for them. When they see those numbers, it's near instantaneous. They see them forward, backwards. They see the division of the number. They see 51. They know it's 3 times 17. It's instant. So it's their language, and they communicate these things very rapidly, very intricately and precisely, smoothly, conversant in these number languages and their meanings, and they will fit it into a context. Oh, in this context, this is what it means. It's like certain words. We have there, 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 T-H-E-R-E, there, T-H-E-I-R, there, T-H-E-Y, apostrophe R-E. Well, each of them has a different way that you apply it in the context of the conversation and the way that you spell it. As you're saying it verbally, it may sound like the exact same word, but in the context and in written form, they express differently written, and they're have different meanings. So it's very important that people understand that this may sound weird to you, but to them, these elite clubs, they're very conversant in their number language communications, and they'll take a number, put it in a proper context, and then understand what there is trying to be expressed based on the broader context of the conversation.
Okay, so 310, 310, Malachi 310. Malachi 3:10 is a biblical reference saying how God will pour out a blessing upon the people, that they won't have room enough to receive it. It talks about the windows of heaven. Windows is 107, quantum trumps. But the quantum financial system comes to 310. So I've seen that for a long time. So yeah, so the Malachi reference is 310. It's Malachi 3:10, and it's the windows of heaven, which to me sounds like the description of Jasara Nasara. Which comes to 109, which comes to a Gucci dress, which comes to 17, comes to Psych Club, it comes to Saturday, it comes to all those things. But the windows of heaven being open to the people is this great abundance blessing, and it's been prophesied, and the marker on it is 310, and the quantum financial system comes to 310, and there's the whole reference of Yuma as well, Yuma 310. But I wanted to make that point because I think there's some significance there in terms of what our Father in heaven is going to bless the people with, because we're going through this period. And I do believe in President Trump's promise that the best is yet to come. And I believe that in all possible ways. You also made an emphasis of this as well, and we might better to bring them two together. You were talking of, you made a few emphases on the codes in the book that you've got. And you said fourth power of 4. Fourth power of 4. So fourth is 88 Trump. Power is 77, it's Christ. That comes to Christ. Bloodline, because bloodline is 88. But also it comes to 165 resurrection, it comes to the visionary, and it takes you back to the picture of Mar-a-Lago that we spoke about. But if you do fourth power of 4, that comes to 246. 246 comes to the biblical reference in the twinkling of an eye. And so my question is, or observation and maybe a reference point for discussion is, I do believe in the prophecy that we're going to go into a period of great prosperity and the best is yet to come. And I do believe in the blessing of Malachi 3:10. And I do believe in the twinkling of an eye. So my question is, are we going to see that? Because you're talking about we're going to understand a lot of things after the summer. And after the summer could be September, it could be October, it could be November. But I do believe there's going to be some significant changes. And it might take longer. But I wanted to connect those two references, those two scriptural references, and that scriptural verse. And I wondered if you've got any commentary on those things.
Well, here's my concern. Anybody that thinks this is going to be easy, it's going to go super smooth, isn't really being honest about where we're at on this. We're going to have a improvement in our situation here around the world. It's going to be we'll get control back up in many ways. We're going to get America under control. We're going to help the whole world. We're going to get some of the corruption knocked out fairly extensively, not just here in the US, but around the world. But it's not going to be over quickly or easily. And the other side is not going to just roll over and accept it. The rest of our life around the world, unfortunately, is going to be very gripping. And we're going to have to grow up and understand that, if you think you're going back to whatever the world was that you remember 3, 5, 20 years ago, that's just not realistic. We are looking at situations where, as much as it's going to be improved in many ways, just because much of the corruption is stopped and overturned, anytime you get into a mob war, just like what I was describing is on the verge of happening across South America right now. We're on the verge of a mob war over which cartels are going to control the drug trade into America and into Europe from South America. And that's going to mean a lot of people are blown up, just like the building that was blown up, the hotel that was blown up in Havana over the weekend. That's not going away. That's going to get worse. The fentanyl crisis in America, with all the fentanyl being trafficked into America by China through Mexico in association with Mexican cartels, involvement across the eastern coast of South America, the Chinese involvement across the western coast of South America is going to continue to intensify radically. We're in for a hell of a series of fights around the world. It'll be the best of times and the worst of times, and that's not understating it or overstating it. We that have decided to stick around, do the fight, and survive, it's going to be an amazing period of time, including prosperity and wealth and health, fighting back against these that are forcing non-cures on the people, that are literally killing thousands and tens of thousands of people and destroying the lives of millions. That is not going to be allowed to stand. We're going to push back on it, but they're also going to push back as we get more decisive. It's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be over in a heartbeat.
You said as well, Juan, you've moved to the wall, which is, I think, is pretty cool, because we talked about.
I thought people might enjoy kind of looking at it. I mean, it's amazing. Every single stone that you're looking at here has a number, and I can't zoom on this particular platform, but I'm looking at every single stone. So, for example, I have 6G52, 6G53, 6G54. Every one of them is numbered where it goes. And, I see a bunch of them that just have a 6 on them. And those are in between the other stones. So they, of course, the whole bridge was dismantled, all the mortar cleaned off it, shipped, brought over here, unboxed, and reassembled here, piece by piece, like a great big jigsaw puzzle. But it's an amazing piece of engineering to have accomplished this. And some of the stones were damaged when they took them apart, so they actually had to literally remake some of the stones. So it's hard to tell which ones are which, but they actually redid a number of the stones so that it was complete because they were damaged in the dismantling process. But it's a cool piece of work.
It's very good. It's lovely. So when you so I mentioned 310 to Yuma in reference to the Malachi 310, and that's down at the Wall in Arizona. Wall is 48, which comes to a few things. Comes to Tom, but it comes to Mega 26, which is God, and Maga is 22, which is Deal. You add them together, come to 48. So you made an emphasis about your book, Mega plus Maga, or Maga to Mega, so 26 plus 22 comes to 48, which is Wall. And there we go. We've got the book on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again,
Strong 93. Did you see that, Rach? Strong is 93. Did you see that one?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, Strong is 93.
Okay, Juan, you were talking about, and I just watched it yesterday, and I thought it was amazing. After I watched that, it's hard for me to imagine that anyone who watches that would still be questioning, because it's pretty obvious that there was. But then you listen to oh, there he is. I listened to the Yuri Bezmenov. There's a YouTube video that talks about him, and he talks about people who basically have been subverted, that you can show them. In his case, in his example, he talked about, so you can literally show people, but they won't believe that it's real. After watching, I feel like that's pretty clear proof. But do you think, like, how many, I think at one point you said there might be 20% of people that just don't wake up, that can't see it. Do you still think that that's about the percentage that still won't wake up?
We actually know from studies that there's a certain percentage that literally short of death itself, it's not just that they don't want to. The programming is so strong that you virtually can't get it back out. It was like a stroke victim. I had a friend that was a stroke victim, and even with assistance, training, rehabilitation, she had got locked into her mind strawberries somewhere in this whole thing. She didn't know where it came from, how it came from, whatever. And so she could look right at the doorknob and want to open the door. And she'd say, I need you to go open the door, is what I would say. She would say, I need you to go open the strawberries. She would say, I have food on the stove would be the right thing. She'd say, I have food on the strawberries. And she'd stop and she'd be so frustrated. And she'd say, I meant on the stove. I meant on the door, doorknob. And it would so frustrate her, but her brain was so cross-wired that as much as she came back, even to the point where she could drive again and got her license again, she still would have times, and usually when she was a little bit nervous or something, and it just come out strawberries. Didn't matter how much she even stopped and tried to think about it sometimes, and the wrong word would come out. It was so frustrating to her. When the programming is as strong we have as it is, some people won't be able to reverse it. The other thing is that people become so vested. I had somebody that was all their adult life that anybody knew it in the family was totally anti getting the of any type, and had every kind of thing in the world to keep it so you didn't have to do that. And then when this whole panic came along, this planned panic, they at some point turned and said everybody needed to go, whatever. And it was so marked, so extreme. Everybody around her was like, really? That's the last person I would have ever thought would agree to that. No, she's like totally militant. Couldn't believe it. But when you looked at the rest of this person's life, they were so locked into a political agenda, a political crowd, literally the Democrat crowd, that when the mantra became strong enough and it became the deciding factor, if you were honest, faithful, good, whatever in that crowd, you had to do it. And so a portion of the programming was so strong it overwrote everything else that was in there, because it became the deciding factor if you were a good Democrat or not. Within the politics here in the United States, there is a component that's so vested in certain ways that everything else will get thrown to the side, and they cannot divest themselves of that area of their life. They're just too deep into it. And so even if you show them something, it's like the gal that comes home, finds her husband in bed with another woman, and the guy jumps out of bed, honey, don't believe your lying eyes. Doesn't matter what you just say, just ignore it. It's not what you thought. You didn't see what you just saw. There's a certain group of women out there. I talked with one even just this last weekend, who weekend before last, and she was telling us, I don't know how to explain it. I just had to look the other way. He said, okay, we're going to be fine. It's all about the kids. And then continued to do what he did. I'm never going to do it again. She said, I couldn't break the brainwashing, almost is the only way I can describe it. It was very painful. Even took counseling for her to decide to just throw him to the curb and get a divorce. It's going to be that way for most of the people here that are heavily vested on the Democratic side. And that's why when you game it out, run the computer algorithms, look at societal history, the number you need to stay from going into civil war is 80+%. It's a very precise number. So what's the other side of the number? 19 plus. 19.47 is the other physics. 19.5 is the average rounded up. 19 is the average rounded down. So at the end of the day, what we're really looking at here is a situation where we will have a large number of people that physically cannot leave this. Do we wait for them? No. We don't need to wait for them. Once we have numbers, 80+%, most of those people will not act. The few that will be taken into custody fairly quickly. So it's just that's the number at which we don't go into civil war because of it. Anyway, I don't know where I left off with you there, but that kind of gives you a zone of
yeah. I was curious if you could give but your best estimate of where we at in terms of that percentage. Are we at the right percentage and we're just waiting for more things to happen, or do we have a little ways to go?
No, we have a ways to go. And this is a moment where a lot of people reprocess, they rethink. We're coming to a moment. The numbers are closing, but it has to be a very steady number. It can't be just a spike, because there's dangers involved in not having a solid number above 80% that keeps us from going into civil war. That's the whole issue. We cannot afford that. America has to have some level of continuity. The bad guys would like us to terminate, to go into some kind of civil chaos that doesn't allow us to survive and to stay viable and functional. The business of America is business. If you can't have the food in the grocery stores, gas at the gas station, the power to the houses, then we break down by degrees, and then the chaos that ensues becomes the basis for some kind of civil discord, unrest, and we can only survive a certain period of time before we come off the rails, and we can't put it back together again. So in protecting society, protecting America from coming off the rails, we need to maintain a certain level of societal continuity. And the way we do that is by having everybody on the same page, and a large enough majority that the ones that don't get it, that will not agree, that will not, adjust mentally, aren't sufficient to tear us all down. They're at a controllable level where they cannot cause us to, come off the rails, if you will. And plus, over time, even like my friend who was the stroke victim, she eventually reached a point where she understood that it was coming out wrong. She really understood it all the way along, but she could slow down, think a little more carefully, stop from saying the next word, and then say the word she really intended. But she had to work at it. Over time, a lot of the people that won't readily flip over and acknowledge the danger, the criminality, eventually they may think a certain way, etc., but they also, when they pause and really process it more precisely, will agree with us. We need all those people. We're not throwing them to the curb. The ones that at least get that there's a problem, we can work with them. And I don't need everybody to agree with me. You don't need everybody to agree with you. If everybody is in perfect agreement, somebody isn't necessary. We actually need a diverse conversation, understanding of the world around us. That's healthy. But we can have diverse opinions and viewpoints without being in conflict, which is different, and ready to go to war and dismantle and tear things down. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of us,
tell you what,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is I'm low on a battery, and I've got some folks here that I said I'd sign a book for each of them. So I'll do that. And then hopefully that gives your people something to consider and talk about. And this is a conversation we'll be having all summer long. And you want to have something to talk about with people, grab a copy of the book, go over to gumroad.com, get a copy of the book, and share it around. It's going to be a conversation piece, because you're about to see something amazing happen out across the world. And those people that have been talking about this, conveying it amongst each other, they're getting it. And people are going to be ready to hear the message again that we have. This was a selection, all these evils that are happening to us around the country, around the world. Those evils are happening because...
Your picture's gone, Juan.
Yeah, my battery's running real low. I'm sorry. Right. Those criminalities are happening to us because people got into office and corruption, and so we're going to have to go, rip them out and put the right people in that did win, that do stuff that fit with the American people's mentality and attitudes. and change the world back to what it was supposed to be. It won't be the same as it was before. It'll be something new, but it will be better than what it is right now. And there's a bright future ahead.
Juan, before your battery goes, I wanted to ask you a quick question about the UK. I did want to just comment. You said 80%. That comes to 155. Comes to the Millennium.
Well, 80% plus. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, just in spelling it out. But also, I didn't notice this until just now. But you're at Lake Havasu, which is 101, and that's in Arizona, which is 84. So 101 plus 84, Lake Havasu, Arizona comes to 185, Donald John Trump. So I wanted to point that out. But my question is, over in the UK, and you talked a bit, maybe we can do this a bit more in the next show, but you spoke about, the MAGA movement across the world. Something very significant has happened at Buckingham Palace. I did a video on it. You can see it on my Psych channel, where people can see it. It's a few videos ago. But there's two black marks. So right, the two front gates of the palace, the crest or the emblem have been taken down again. So during 2019 into 2020, there was one on the far right, and I did a few videos on that. That's subsequently been put back up. But now, right front and center, and the Jubilee's just around the corner, starts on the 2nd of June. There's two black marks. The two black marks come to 182, come to the flux capacitors. That's a key part of Back to the Future. But from your perspective, London Bridge, because you're at London Bridge, maybe we can go into why you're there. But what's the deal with the palace? Because I mean, that's a brilliant two markers for the whole world to see.
You have to remember what are the two balls significant. Go find the cane and you'll understand.
Go and find the
cane.
The cane.
Two balls and a cane.
Okay. Paul, 88, two black balls, yeah?
Yep. Two ball cane. Go find it and you'll understand the rest of the story.
Okay. Two ball cane. Okay. Interesting. And what brings you to I mean, is it just there's always, you always mix pleasure and work and what brings you to Lake Havasu?
Yeah, one of my boats is being delivered down here. I'm going to run the river here. So we'll be picking it up here in a few minutes and go take a run and go have some fun. Okay. It's one of the few places you can open it up.
Nice. 2,000 comes to 160, Rach. I thought you'd like that as well.
Yep, that's a good number.
Yeah. All right, my friend, we'll let you go before your battery goes, and we'll put the links to 107 Daily, and also we'll also put the link for the Storm, the book. You can get the tumblers. Are the tumblers still available for people? I know that seemed popular at the time.
No, that was just a limited thing. Those are only going to people that are getting the third edition when that comes out release. That was a pre-release sale. There is
the pre-release still available?
The pre-release is already sold out on that particular package. Okay. There is a pre-release over at 107daily.com that's got the third edition and a t-shirt in it of the third edition. Actually, it's got second editions, I should say, and then a t-shirt cover of the third edition. The actual third edition is still a couple months out before that's released. So that's a pre-sale that was going on there, but the artwork is spectacular, and I think people are going to really enjoy it. I had some portions of it being reviewed by one of the folks the other day, and they said, "Oh my gosh, this is spectacular! It's amazing." So I think people will enjoy it, and same size and format style as the first and second edition. So but there's still some of the second editions. That's one that, and there's a handful of firsts left there too at Gum Road, and so there you go.
Two ball cane, 112 victory.
Well, there's other meanings also. So have some fun. We'll talk more about it soon.
Okay, good stuff. Rach, well, go over to Rachel's channel as well, viewers. She's got her most recent George collection video. So that's up there at Right Side Blonde. Do subscribe to Psych Club and also the Tom Numbers Show, and we'll see everyone soon. God bless you, Juan. We'll see you soon, brother.
All right.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye, guys.
All right.
See you later. Bye.